So I'm going to try to explain how we can use Telepresence for debugging any sort of project you have to, like where you have to use a Kubernetes cluster. And in this case, I want to present how to debug something for the cert-manager project. So what is Telepresence? Telepresence is a nice way, like a nice wrapper around SSH, SSS shuttle. So S shuttle is like a proxy in both ways, and it is like a SSH with proxying and a sort of VPN. But the point here is that it's going to use your IP tables or PF packet filters on macOS or FreeBSD in order to, from the host, to route traffic inside the cluster. And it's going to allow me to act like I was inside the cluster. And it's very convenient. And it's all you can also route the traffic from the host, from the pod. So from a pod that is running inside the cluster to the host. And why is it useful? So I have cert-manager running, and every time I want to update a piece of code, I will have to rebuild an image, which is very slow on macOS because we're running a VM. And it might be quite fast in some cases, but since I'm running cert-manager is a Kubernetes controller, the source code for this and the build time is quite big. And the point is to have to be able to, because as you may have noticed, the go run command is quite fast. So for example, here I can run my controllers in a matter of seconds, and usually it's quite fast. Yeah. And if you run it again, it's going to be quite fast because there is a caching mechanism, which you don't get if you rebuild the image. And also, it makes it so easier to debug using Delve, which is a debugger for Go. But there is an alternative to Telepresence, which I used in the past, called Tilt. Tilt is used in projects like Cluster API. And so Tilt is a nice tool for making the developer experience using containers and Kubernetes as seamless as possible. It can be for a local Kubernetes cluster or a remote one, and it makes it so faster. For example, to instead of rebuilding the whole image, it's going to rely on a cache for Go programs at least. And it's interesting because Tilt is also using as Bazel. It's also using Starlark language. But the thing is, it requires you to move your build infrastructure into Tilt files. So you have, if you have makefiles or Bazel files, then you have to move everything to Tilt files. Or you can use Tilt and just wrap things. Like if you use Bazel, then you ask Tilt to wrap Bazel. But it's not as easy as using Telepresence and just tapping into the running pod and yeah. So let's use Telepresence. In my case, I want to debug something that was let me try again. Something that was going wrong. This bug here. So let's see the bug. Orders get stuck on failed after updating a certificate from an invalid to a valid field in the certificate. So the user had created a certificate, and the DNS names here was wrong. When the Acme server would be called for creating an order, the Acme server would return a 400 BAT request response, which meant for some reason it was getting stuck, and even if the user would update the DNS names, the certificate request and the order would stay the same, which is unfortunate. So I wanted to know what was going on, and I crafted a really small example of a YAML file that reproduces the issue, and we're going to run delve running Telepresence and see what happens with this. So let's first make sure we have cloned cert-manager. In this case, I already have it cloned here, and I'll make sure I have a local development cluster. So I use devel cluster create, and then I install cert-manager using the Helm chart. And yeah, since it takes quite a while, I already did it, and I'm going to skip this step. And now let's see if we have cert-manager running. So get pods. And yes, we have this pod running. And now what I'm going to do is use Telepresence and hijack in some ways. Hijack this pod. And what happens is, oh, by the way, to install Telepresence, if you have a Mac, you can use install Telepresence. Brew install Telepresence. So let's do this. So Telepresence namespace cert-manager, and in this case we're going to swap the deployment called cert-manager. We have a deployment here, get deployment. So we're going to swap out this with another one created by Telepresence. So let's have Telepresence. Actually, let's have Telepresence up there. Yeah, here, Telepresence. And I'm going to disable the mounting thing because it takes a bit longer, and we're using the run shell argument, which is going to open a new shell using bash, not Zish, because there is a compatibility issue with Zish, so it's going to be bash. And let's do this. Since it's going to edit your packet filter or IP tables, it requires your password. And by the way, let's see the packet filter rules just to make sure. And we can see that there are two new anchors. So because I'm using packet filter, these two ones, and if I see what's going on under, you can see that it added 3 rules. And so this is my pod cider for this cluster. Sorry, this is the pod cider for the service for this deployment. Oh, I have a problem here. Yeah, I think. Okay, this issue with Telepresence, because it is going to use, it is going to replace my DNS. It needs to be able to catch the DNS request, but in my case, I use NextDNS, so I have to disable it in order to make it work. that's one bad thing with Telepresence. It's going to mess your system. It needs to be able to catch the DNS request. As you can see here, it's going to redirect everything from port to any DNS server to this program, so this socket here. And yeah, sometimes it's annoying. It doesn't, like, you have to understand things. And let's see. Okay, it's running now. And so let's remember why we have to use this. Let's remember why I have to get this Telepresence thing running. So let's see first what is running in cert-manager right now. Sorry, deploy. So we have our deployment that has been scaled to 0. So it has been basically disabled. And Telepresence has created a new pod, this one here, which has the same volumes and same things that as in the deployment, except this is running a proxy that routes things where everything that is as you can see here, so everything going to this pod-sider, service-sider going to this service-sider is going to be proxied into the pod, and so inside the cluster. Same for I think this is the pod IPs, and this is the DNS service. So for example, let's take an example. Let's see if we can look up the service.default.kubernetes, no, cluster, service.cluster.local. Let's see if this works. Default. Oops, name is wrong. Kubernetes. And here you can see that the DNS request works. And so this is because we have this Telepresence thing moving the traffic from the host to this pod that is replacing deployment. Anyway, oh, what happened? What is this? Okay, okay, never mind. Now we can dive into what is going on with cert-manager. So first off, I'm going to create. So this example that I showed previously, I'm going to apply it. Issue. And now I'm going to use the cert-manager plugin, kubectl plugin, to see what's going on. So, oh, wait. Okay, that makes sense. So we have Telepresence running, but cert-manager is not running at this point because the deployment has been scaled to 0. And so we have to run Telepresence ourselves in order for it to work. And since, actually I'm going to run cert-manager here in this shell. Okay, let's do this. I skipped the election because it's annoying. It's going to take a while. I think the election delay is like 30 seconds. Okay, so it's doing stuff. Now we can see again. And here we can see that we have an error here, and google.com refuses to issue the certificate. And now let's reproduce the issue. So what happens is when you switch from a failing, like invalid DNS names, and then you switch to a valid one, the certificate does not get updated, the certificate request. And now this is the correct DNS names, but as you can see, there is no change, and we have the same certificate request, and I cannot show you here, but there is the same order also. And now let's see what's going on under the hood. What I'm going to do is, instead of running Go-run, I'm going to run with delve. And so this is going to be delve API version 2 because I'm running the debug adapter on VS Code. Headless because I'm going to attach using VS Code. So debug and the same arguments as before. And let's fast forward a bit. I know that the error is coming from, oh, where is it? Yes, so we have this message, and I guess from my guessing, it could be coming from this. So certificate trigger, and I'm going to look for this string here. Yes, so this string appears in the trigger controller, and I'm going to take a look at why we're going in this thing. Who? And let's see, let's open the debugger. So my expectation is that we should go and check if there is a mismatch between the certificate and the request. And I know that this happens in this policy chain. And here I know that this function is this one in the chain is going to check if there is a mismatch. And if there is a mismatch, then it's going to be triggering a new issuance. And so I want to make sure that this is being run. Let's see. So debugger, I'm attaching here. And this, maybe I should show the configuration. So the configuration is attach on remote, and the port is 2345. And yeah, let's wait for a bit. Okay, we're getting something. So we actually have the breakpoints coming here in this function. And let's see what happens. So we current certificate request. Oh, so it's because the revision request is nil, it's never going to see if there is a match. So current secrets. I'm not sure why we're back into this piece of code. And now we have, oh, why do we have a nil pointer exception? Anyway, I will skip to the result because I would have to dig a bit more, and I already did the work a few days before. But the point is, it is very convenient to be able to use Telepresence and tap into the deployment, like use your local cluster, but like run the commands like go, run, and delve locally. Although it is breaking the promise that everything is containerized and like your local environment shouldn't impact the way you run the code. That's the downside, but I think it's great. And for example, when I change the code, I can, let me do this. And when I change the code, I can just do this. It takes a few milliseconds. It's so faster than trying to rebuild an image and using tilt or anything. So yeah, that's why I'm doing it. And you could even use a file watcher to reload the controllers directly without even touching this, which is pretty nice, I think. Okay, that's everything I wanted to share. So again, the Telepresence project is over there. Here, it's very nice. The person behind S Shuttle is no other than the current Tailscale CEO. And I think it's a nice project. Although it's in Python, it's not very portable, not as portable as Go things, but it's very nice. And yeah, you check it out because it's a nice piece of thing. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.